Hi, friends. Welcome to a new episode of the Wild Creators Podcast. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Anja Partlič. Anja is a 3.5 splenic projector. She's also an emerging entrepreneur and wise guide who's been on a lifelong adventure of creative exploration and experimentation. Let's dive into my insightful and inspiring conversation with Anja.
I'm here.
I'm excited to chat. How are you? How are things? Are you in Slovenia now? Are you, I know.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're back home after all of your.
I am. I've been here for almost a year now.
Oh, okay. So you've been back settled, and
Yeah,
how
it's
is
weird. I
is
mean, good,
it
bad.
after you're traveling? Well, this is part of what I want to chat about, but I'm also curious just to hear about that experience of because I had been reading on your website of your month long travels and experiments along the way, and that was fascinating. So we may talk a little bit about that if that's okay too, uh, and whatever else you want to share about life and uh, work and all of your experiments and the ways that you're guiding people with all of these tools that you've collected and experimented with, which is
Yeah, I mean, the website, it's there. It's not really active. I don't think it's very practical yet. I'm not sure I like it that much. It's like, okay, visually, sure. I like the colors and stuff. But I do think I would have to, like, I would want to improve it and like make it more practical and make it make more sense.
mhm.
So that has just kind of been there. And ever since I came to Slovenia, I was just kind of like a human design system, no.
Oh,
That was so weird. But then it just like slowly I just got back into it and I just came back to, yeah, this is something I still want to do and I still like. But it just kind of came to the point where I now enter this like analyst training. So I guess this is the first time I actually am doing something kind of really official in this road, right?
right.
Because I've touched on things, I've worked with people, like I've had like the original courses done, but then I mostly have done self-study, right? So I
Mhm.
just like whatever I found online, all kinds of courses, I either like downloaded that I shouldn't have, or I actually paid for some on various topics. And now I was just like, yeah, I'm actually starting this official thing. So it's kind of trippy being a part of like a group that all does that, and it's just kind of like the normal thing now.
Right. It is interesting. So,
Yeah.
okay, first, I want to introduce you and let you
Okay.
introduce yourself. And then I'm ready to get into it because I'm also interested in the fact that human design. So you did feel this sort of like disconnect for a while from being immersed in it and or at least doing your own self-study. And then you sort of,
It's on and off, actually. It's
yeah.
kind of been it's been like the best thing I've ever found at the beginning, right? And I couldn't stop reading everything, even though I couldn't understand a word really, because it was, English and it was new words that I haven't known in my native tongue. So it's like learning a word and learning what it means, like through experimenting and then translating into my native tongue. So it was just kind of like language mixture as well. And then I moved to Germany, the language I did speak and I did learn in school, but it was still like living there, it was like different than like all the traveling, and I still was kind of forced to speak English only because there was nothing else to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like all of these, like it just became at some point, in some points it became too much. It was like there was like the experiment of life was so dense that I couldn't take in human design system. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I almost convinced myself I don't need this, I don't want this. But then eventually, as I settled into the space, as I like got used to everything, I was like, yeah, still, this is what I
Yeah.
reach for.
Right,
So it's
right.
always like back and forth, kind of.
Right. It was just a bit overstimulating when it
Mm,
was mixed in with all this other
yeah.
opportunities to learn and be and surrounded with so many people as a projector. I imagine that was like a lot to navigate other people's energies um and across cross culturally and again language, and that is a whole other world. I mean, I have so much respect for people who are so fluent, and your English is amazing. And the fact that that now you're learning and studying in English, which is I can imagine, especially with something so dense as human design, that is like a whole other
I mean,
experiment.
I'm constantly like that's one of the reasons too why I go back and forth with it, because I'm like, do I need this in my life? You know what I mean? Do I
Right.
want to put myself through this much learning and figuring things out in this foreign language? Who gives a shit, you know?
Right,
But I'm
right.
like, no, but I love it. I can't not, you know, it's that. It's just like it's difficult at times, but it's just I love it. So
Yes, and it has obviously impacted your life and given you
yeah.
some framework for understanding your own mechanics. And yeah, that's I resonated with a lot as I've been like looking through your story and your website, which is beautifully done. And I do recognize the fact that there always works. I mean, we have to start somewhere, even though it's not perfect. We have to put it
Yeah.
out there and then let it evolve, from a somewhere, from something. And so I think you've got a great starting place to evolve from, as you probably will find clarity in your work as you go through, your course of study, whatever, however, wherever that leads you. So, would you pronounce your last name for me, please?
Partlič.
Part. See, I knew I was not going to, with my Texan accent. Say it one more time.
Partlič.
Partlič.
So you
Okay.
roll like the R, and it's R and T together, so it's like
Partlič.
RTL, so it's rtl, Partlič.
Part, Partlič.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Partlič. Okay. I'll get it.
very dense and like.
Partlič. Okay. Yeah, that helps. Thank you for that. You're a great guide.
How did the idea of having a podcast start for you?
My own curiosity and wanting to connect with other people and really wanting to just connect with a diverse group of people who are creating things. And it started with a curiosity around the creative process, but then also wanting to talk about human design, also, and having a vehicle to do that. Most people I've talked with so far have they have very little understanding of their charts or their design. They're just barely dipping their toes in. So I'm excited to actually talk with more people who um, share that common vocabulary, and because it does sort of shake up your whole concept of life when you first meet
Yeah, yeah.
humans. And so, as I've been in my own experiment now for like way longer than I realized. I realized, I really wanted, and in my day-to-day life, there's nobody that I come in contact with that speaks this language. Same. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of my questions. So I was really wanting to connect with other people and just have some conversations and share other people's work too. So it felt creative and it felt like a way to connect with people. So we'll see how it goes. So thank you for joining me in this experiment.
Sure.
Yes. So how how did you first come to meet human design yourself? Was it by chance or by exploration?
I mean, kind of just exactly those two things. It was by chance and exploration. Um, I don't know, just everything in my life started, just nothing kind of made sense anymore. Like it didn't matter like how much I tried, everything just kept like falling apart. And I just found myself in this space of like, what am I doing? Where am I going? None of this makes sense. I don't want to do this anymore, you know? Starting to notice how I've been like living this life where I've just been following external expectations, and I've been trying to be this perfect person and whatever perfect meant at the time for me from whatever, whoever. And then I found that I started like looking for things that would give me answers. I like first thing was like I just found out how much I was lying, you know, just like to myself and everyone else around me, just to keep up the perfect persona or whatever. So it was like just like looking for like psychological things and the philosophy and astronomy, astrology, whatever. And I remember being subscribed to this one YouTube channel on astrology, and she had these long videos and like very specific, like sun in Aries and blah blah blah, and it was like 30-minute video, very specific, you know.
Oh,
And I just kind of found myself in that, even though like astrology for me was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure. But then
mhm.
once she had this video about human design system, I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, never heard of it. And I don't think I even watched it immediately. I just like put it in like watch later kind of like playlist.
Mhm.
Like I watched it like a week after that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I just like started looking things up, and I just remember it was like I was just glued to the computer, downloading everything, looking at every website, just like reading stuff, having no idea what it is, but it just made sense. You know, it's
Yeah.
almost like, yeah, sure, like, yeah, a foreign language, new words, but it was almost like energetically I was drawn to it so much that no matter what I was doing, I just like tried to listen to some lectures or whatever. I just like, you know, and it was like all of a sudden, like things just started opening up for me. Like I just started being very receptive to like energies in general. Like I would go to the forest and hug trees, something I would never see myself do before. You know, I would ridicule people doing that. I was like, yeah, this tree needed my hug, and then, you know, I was just like, I
It
just like
totally
let
opened you up.
experience world in a very different way. You know, like just really being, is there anything in this thing? Like, can I see any of what I just read actually appear in my life or not? You know, and I would go into it like, no, no, this is bullshit. It's not, whatever. What is this? But then,
Right.
like, you know, more and more things just like start making sense, start connecting. I was like, yeah, okay, then maybe, right? So,
Right.
you know, like a few months later, I actually got a reading from a person who was doing readings, and like started kind of a training then. And then after I think I only had like about 3 sessions, or maybe like 5 sessions altogether with different people, and then I just was like, no, I'm not doing this with like teachers. I'm just gonna read it and go try it out in different places, spaces with different kinds of people, and that's kind of how my traveling thing started. You know,
Oh, interesting. So it not only ignited your own experiment within yourself, but it also ignited this like drive to go out and test it and experiment in the world. Did you have plans to travel before, or was this really fueled by human design and a need to sort of
I mean,
experiment?
no, I don't think it was fueled by human design system, really. It was just kind of, it just made sense. Like I
Mhm.
really do look at it as like, oh, it just all just kind of happened very naturally. Even like human design system was almost like supposed to fall into my life in a way. Because
Yeah.
I just remember like I was in library, I was supposed to be doing schoolwork, and I was reading these books on how to travel the world, you know, like taking notes on like how to travel the world in a cheap way or very effectively or whatever. And I had no plans of going anywhere, not really, nothing like fixed. But
Mhm.
then like about like 2 years after that, I was like, oh, I know where to look now because of that book I read briefly 2 years ago, you know? So I started having questions about like, what am I doing here? How am I connecting with people? What is the point of this and that? Maybe like a year before I actually like found human design system, you know? So it was just kind of,
It was
I
a
don't know.
organic
Human design
progression.
system definitely like made it faster, and it gave me like almost like permission to do all these things, because it was like it was something that said it's okay for you to just be you and to trust in yourself, you know, something I
Mm.
rarely got from other people outside, you know, or my family, or, you know, like just environment I was in. So it was like, no, 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 you are supposed to be you. You know, I was just like, oh, okay, then I have to be me. Right?
Right. It
I
gave you
wasn't
permission to like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So were you actively following your strategy and authority at that time, or were you like, obviously you had other tools that you were sort of using to navigate also, but at that point, were you actively in your human design experiment, or were you still sort of like going with the obviously it was sort of an organic unfolding of events too that you just sort of allowed to happen and you just went with it. But you said you didn't have a plan at all. Did you just know your starting point and then from there um, went to
Yeah,
the
I
next?
mean, like looking back at like I always just had a plan, I followed that plan, and yeah, it was kind of like following strategy and authority thing. I
Mhm.
didn't know what I was doing, but I remember I was working in a like a grocery stores, like organic food shop or something, and I had to like organize fruits and vegetables when the new ones arrived, and I would just be like, no, I'm not gonna think about how I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna watch my hands lift themselves and do things, you know. So it was very physical
Hmm.
at first. It was just like I was almost like watching myself like playing a video game that I mean, you know, I was like a character someone else was playing, kind of that thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was just kind of this planning. What's happening right now, I don't know, it's just happening, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
And then so you had like this new awareness of
yeah, yeah,
like the passenger of being sort
yeah.
of the passenger experience of
And it was
that.
freeing. It was like, you know, I was like, I don't have to do anything.
Right.
How great is that?
Just be.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah. And so that totally freed you to just be uh in lots of different places over the course. And that sets you out on this adventure of just like trusting yourself, it sounds like, of learning to trust your own inner guidance and following it wherever it was leading you. And it sounds like you were embarked on quite an adventure of more learning and experiencing other people's energy and other people's designs. And how was that experience of kind of having this new awareness and then being immersed in quite a lot of differentiation, I would imagine, like culturally and energetically. And it was a lot of change. I mean, it was a lot of differences, I'm guessing.
yeah. I mean, I kept it for myself for a very long time. I didn't talk about it at all to anybody. Not really,
Mhm,
you know, just a few
mhm.
people, but not specifically. Um, but I remember doing this thing where I would just almost like provoke interactions with people in some way. It's like, oh, I can see like this person reacts to this because like I have this gate and they probably have that other gate. What if I like push into like us like gluing those two gates together and forming a channel? Do they have the channel or not? And you know, I wouldn't like really look up their chart until like months after, and then I would have, oh yeah, I get it now, I see it now. So it was like this game of like time as well. Yeah, and I would like keep like transits and be like, oh, can I sense what's happening today? Oh, this is connecting to this gate, you know, the gate in my chart is connecting to the gate from a chart of today. And yeah, like it
Oh,
became like I just saw numbers and it was fun, but then like I just had to like cut it off and just again just like throw it off for a little bit because it just became kind of obsessive too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I
I get to
totally
that
get
point
that.
when I'm just like, I have to stop now because it's too much.
Yeah, I get that. I have had those moments too of where I just have had it becomes an obsession trying to prove it right to myself or prove that it is that there's something to it. Especially in the beginning, I felt like I was just trying to prove it to myself that there was truth in it, even though I felt it from the moment I met human design. Did you recognize yourself as a projector as soon as you found your chart? I mean, did you? I mean, for me, there was like this deep like relief for sure and understanding like so many things about myself that felt like they were, uh, you know, being surrounded by generators. I don't know if you can relate to this as a projector of feeling that you don't work the same way. And I always felt inadequate, like especially around with jobs and employment and feeling like I don't know how these people work 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or more. And it was such a relief when I found human design and it felt like it explained so many things about myself that uh, felt broken before or felt like I was, broken human being that I wasn't functioning correctly. And then I'm like, I'm functioning exactly correctly. So I don't know if you had that experience of recognition in your chart of being like, that's why I am like this, or that explains. And that's part of what became so obsessive for me is uh, being able to understanding it in other people and having the language to speak about it, even to myself. So I don't know if you had that same experience of recognition or relief. Um, I
Yeah,
don't.
no, I have. Like it was I just tested it. It was like, okay, I'm supposed to wait.
Mm,
I just like really like I remember I had to switch the old tires with the new ones. And so I went to this tire like place where they sell tires or whatever. And I just like there was a lady behind the counter and she was doing something. I just like stood there and just like waited. And usually I'd be like all nervous and be like, oh, like, what am I supposed to, how am I say this? And I was just like waiting. And she just looked up and was like, oh, okay, sorry, now go. Like ask me, you know? It was just like, it was so beautiful, you know? It was just like, I could just wait and things would just happen. I don't have to like push. I don't have to go in, you know what I mean?
Right.
It
So
wasn't
that was
like,
a
oh, thank God. I don't like I knew it was that way, but I just like wouldn't allow myself to actually experiment it, you know?
wow, because of that
Yeah.
outside pressure to do and to take action, or
Yeah,
instead
but
of
also like I said, yeah, like this whole like do things all the time, you know, be very productive, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but yeah, I mean, I still see myself as very productive. It's just I define it differently now.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
that too. But yeah, this like realization that I'm a projector and that it's okay, you know? That was
Right.
yeah, that was like
Was it easy for you to shift into that mode of waiting now to be recognized? I mean, was that a hard shift, or was it did it feel like relief, or was it like, was your mind still trying to convince you to not wait? uh, or was it
I
very
mean
easy for you to just switch on into that?
I mean it was both.
Mhm. I love that. It's
It's still both, you know? I mean I
still
still like don't want to wait and I want things to happen and I want to do it all and I want to move everything, you know? But then it's like I remember that I don't have to.
mm,
And I do sit back and I, you know, like it is this like I come back to human design system just like to be like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, you know?
right.
It's like this inner friend or whatever. It's like, yeah, let me remind myself of the fact that I don't have to go this fast. I don't, you know, so
Mm,
it's I that's why also like I kind of like going back and forth. It's like I like
mhm.
forgetting and getting
Yeah,
lost in whatever, you know, and then just like being no, it's okay, it's fine. I can just calm down. I can just wait. I can just lean back, and things will still happen. You know, life will
right.
still happen. So
I do
it's
think it's a
still
game.
both. I don't think anything really changed. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I I feel like it's easier in a way because I have the vocabulary to express what's always kind of been my reality and it just helps me understand everything that's happening deeper. But
Mhm.
really, I mean, nothing's changed that much, you know. Like I still try to plan everything, and then I'm like, I don't have to. It's fine, you know. It's I don't think that's ever gonna stop, you know. But it's a part of the fun of being alive and being in this body, you know. So it's like, I mean,
That is I love that because it is like, it does feel like a game sometimes that we play with ourselves, like that forgetting. And then what a gift to have. Human design does feel like a gift to me sometimes because we have this tool that we can then be like, it's okay. It's okay to just be, or be yourself, and that these differences that we have are magic too. Like that is like was another incredible gift for me, is like realizing how different we all are and how much um, unique power there is, or how much unique creativity there is in that. Our unique differences from this chart that on the outside, it looks so similar, but the vast differences that it holds for each of us, and how it actually I love that video that you shared where what was the quote, and you use it on your website, uh that this human design is your sheet music, and to our personal song. And I'm like, that is so beautiful, that is perfect, that is exactly correct. I mean, it feels that way, doesn't it? That it is this unique song that we all have. I loved that you shared that. So
and
thank you
only
for
you
that.
can do your song as well as you do, right? I can't replicate that. It's just like you're the perfect artist, you know? Yeah.
Yes, that is it. So can you, or do you even try to, or if someone asks you to explain the value of human design to you or for you, I mean, do you feel compelled to share it with other people? I mean, uh, do they ask? Do Are people? I mean, how do you navigate that? Because sometimes, um, or I'm asking you now, like, how do you explain the value of human design? How do you explain human design at all? Um, do you have a way of explaining it yourself?
I mean, it depends on who is asking.
Hmm, good point.
Um, I don't know. It's just like so specific. I don't think it's, if I have to convince someone that this is the best thing ever, it's not, it doesn't matter what I say.
Right,
Um,
right.
but it's usually I can just see if somebody's interested, then I go deeper and they just I can see it, like you can see the way they're just reacting to things. It's like, are you receptive to that, or to this, or are you not? I just usually go the way I've explained everything here, just like tell them about the story of my life and how it's impacted me.
Mhm.
But I also know that, it's not gonna touch everyone. Like somebody's gonna get a book or hear about it and just, they're never gonna get into it, and that's okay.
Right, right,
Well, and in a way, I mean, it's not a religion or whatever, but it is like, in a way, it is like something I hold on to when it gets hard in some ways.
hmm
So,
hmm
I'm like, okay, I have these numbers and this system, and it's super deep, and it's not based on believing in someone or holding on to, or like being a devotee to some guru, but it's still, I don't know. I'm like, I mean, if you need to believe in Jesus Christ, go there.
right.
If you need a Paramahansa Vishwananda or whoever, go there. And like comparing even like all these spiritual practices and religions, it is all kind of based on the same thing, like, yeah, trust yourself, but they just go trust God. We go like, your God, trust yourself because you're God. So it's like, yeah, I'm
Right,
like, this works for me.
right,
This gives you the permission to be me. This is very statistical. It's very detail oriented. It goes extremely deep. You can study it and never stop. And uh, you know, it gives
yeah,
you the opportunity to really explore it yourself and see it exactly the way you want to see it. But if you would rather follow a guru, go there.
right,
you know?
right. That it's just another tool available
Yeah,
to
yeah,
us. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for guidance. Yeah, yeah,
Like I don't see it as this like extremely special thing. It was for me, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But it's not necessarily special to the next person. Like
That's very true.
it's like if it is for you, if you're supposed to meet this thing, however, even that sounds kind of like religion like to me, but um
Yeah,
you either meet this and you either resonate with it or you don't.
right,
It's
right,
just,
right.
it's just
And
another thing.
it is, and I feel like that's where I feel like I like to include it in the conversation, but for me, it's certainly not the whole conversation. It's just one tool that I use. It has been a really impactful tool for me. It's been a really helpful tool for me. I'm still learning how to integrate it into my own work because I do see the value in it. But is it the only tool that I use? It's definitely not the only tool I use, and it's not the only guidance system I use, even. I use other things for guidance as well. Um, and sometimes that's part of my own like research is like, how do they work together? Do they disprove each other? Or, do they, um, or do they correlate? Do they help each other? So I very much get that, and that's, you know, I think as I integrate it into my own work, that's something I struggle to communicate sometimes, is that it is one option available to you, and it can be a super helpful one if you're open to it. But it's definitely not the only option or the best option. It is an option. So yeah, uh, it is kind of interesting to navigate that, especially because I identify also with what you're saying. Sometimes I just don't even want to talk about it at all. Sometimes I just want to forget I ever learned about it and see what happens. But sometimes I'm reminded of like what a helpful tool it has been for me and just giving me that framework of understanding and the language and the vocabulary to be able to speak about things that I couldn't speak about um, for a long time before I had that established this relationship with this system that has been super helpful at times helpful and then at times really distracting but um how has human design or any of your other tools or experiments that you have um, engaged with or used in your own life has the other thing I really enjoy talking about in this podcast is self-care because especially recovering from so many years of conditioning working as a generator, I was really burned out with after a really long career working in like a corporation of working all those hours and things. And so as I learned about human design and other tools, and I really gave myself permission to just be myself, I realized that I was not prioritizing my own self-care, and I started like that became a word that became part of my vocabulary. And so um, whether related to human design or not, can you talk a little bit about your own relationship to rest in as part of your creative process and self-care in general, or how you define those two things for you as you navigate your own work?
Hmm. Yeah. It's like it just keeps changing what it is. Um, like I used to live very close to nature, so I would go out for walks in the forest and I would just be in nature and just like enjoy the calmness of everything. But now I live in a very dense place, so I take time to slow down and like to just go see a play.
Mm.
Just like puts me in like a this like I literally paid to be an observer, you know. So I
Right.
just like I kind of like look at an art place that's, it's like still nature is something just something that people created,
Mm.
but it's still very much, like it's an expression of self. I mean, a play or like a concert of live music or I don't know, some opera or something like that. I really like to go enjoy that here that I have this opportunity. Or I go to church. I like go to different kinds of churches and just observe and I listen to people speak and like just sit in the melody of their voice. I do that here. Whereas when I lived in Germany, I lived very much close to nature, so I would just like go in the forest and just like listen to the birds sing and listen to like the sounds of nature or just like the silence, or like
Mhm.
it just really smell like the freshness of like the wet forest,
Mm.
you know? So it just depends. I just like try to find what's there. No matter
Mhm.
where I am, it's just like what what do I like and what calms me down and what like stops the ordinary rhythm of my day, like how can I just like switch it up, and that just kind of like shakes me up and it's like, oh, and I I go to see a play and then I just like I remember the calmness I felt while I was sitting there enjoying the play and getting lost in the story there. And so then I incorporate that in my life when I feel overwhelmed and I'm just like, oh, no, I remember what it felt like, or I remember what it felt like when it was like snow and this insane silence and I could hear the leaf move in the forest, it's just like it's that.
I love that.
Depends what's around. Yeah.
I You just totally blew my mind as far as like equating the experience that you have in nature with finding that in a human made creation of art of someone else's expression and finding that same sense of peace and witness. I just like got kind of that you were able to like that just blew my mind. But you're so correct because I have when I was living in Dallas, it was very, metropolitan and I didn't recognize that that's what I was doing at the time, but I sought out, art. But it didn't occur to me that it's because I was removed from nature that I was seeking out art as sort of a replacement or a surrogate to nature, and that it was the same experience. And it had never occurred to me that that's. I mean, I had, of course, understood it as appreciating creation, but that's basically what we do when we go into nature is appreciating, these creations of the trees and the animals and the things around us. It's just a different way of um, witnessing, and I love that you're able, and then you were able to reflect back on those moments. Um, when you're not necessarily feeling that peace in your daily rhythms. Have your daily rhythms changed as you have become more at ease as with your identity as a projector? As with have you changed the way you work, or are you just sort of more aware of um, things? The pace now. I don't know if you've always sort of been in tune with that even before you were aware of yourself as a projector. You said you were always sort of following your strategy and authority even before you were following strategy and authority. But did you change the way you work at all? Or has the way you work changed to?
Mm, I mean, yes and no. It's kind of the same thing where I allow myself to be slower.
Mhm.
I like I can feel the pressures or of people being you need to do this faster, whatever, whatever comes at me and I'm just like, no, I don't have to. It's
Mhm.
okay. Like I'm fine doing this. So it's like, so I notice it, but I just like don't interact with it as much. Whereas
Mhm.
before it would be like, I would get a message of you need to do this faster, you need to do this better. I'd be like, I have to. How do I do it faster? And I would just go and do it, and then I would just, drive myself to exhaustion. I'm not saying I don't do that now,
Mhm.
but it's just, um, I guess I notice it a little faster, and I like I said, I just like try not to take it seriously. I guess I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, what I'm doing right now is important for whoever or whatever, but I'm importanter. I'm more important. So it's like, yeah, yeah, sure. I'll integrate into life and how everything's moving. But in the back, I'm still like, yeah, but it has to work for me.
Right, right.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm noticing the pace around me, and I'm just kind of doing my own thing. And sometimes I just go and swim with it, and then I'm like, no, I'll go slower.
Right.
So yeah,
But there is an awareness that you have now whenever you are allowing yourself to like dip back into that, like the energy
yeah.
of other people's expectations or whatever their timelines or yeah, I do love
I
that.
mean, I still go into it because like I enjoy like experiencing like the fast pace sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But then it gets to the point. It's like the same thing kind of happens now, but it seems like it's faster. I just like I still get to the point where I was like, oh, I can't do this. It's too fast. I'm like, yeah, of
Mm-hmm.
course you can't. I mean, it's not for you. Like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. So there was just like I just was learning about the pace, in this specific area or in my life or whatever. So I'm like,
Right.
I just sit back and I enjoy myself. Then I go see a play or whatever.
Right,
know?
right. It creates a space between that, whereas before maybe you got lost in that.
Before, like I didn't know it was allowed. Like I felt like I was bad or I was doing something wrong when I allowed myself to just relax and slow down
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
do whatever I wanted to do. Like
Mhm.
I had no idea. It was like being yourself that that was a thing. I was just convinced that everyone was just following what they were, like you get to just, it was just like, how? I literally was like, I didn't believe any of this was true because I was like, there's no way. There's no way anybody is just being who they are. There is no such thing. So now I'm like, yeah, there is. I get lost in, whatever I think I should be doing, but I know it's okay. I know I get to come back. I know I get to stay here. I know it's fine,
Mm.
But I also like enjoy like the dance of getting lost in here and jumping in here and coming back. Like I like doing that too.
I love
So
that. And that has
it's becoming
obviously
fun,
been
not necessarily. It's become fun, not like a terror.
right, right. It's totally, you've reframed it now, and it is something, it's more of about the experience, which is obviously how you're uh you know, I feel like sometimes I think about like uh those experiences as like tools, and you're just gathering these tools that are available to you as you're guiding others. Like you're able to pull from all these experiences that you've dipped into or allowed yourself to like get lost in or explore, all these different little explorations, and that's just more things you've gathered that you have at your disposal to um, funnel into your work, however that expresses, however it comes out. It's all informing, um, based on these little adventures you've had in exploring the other people and other energies, and yeah. Um, so I'm curious about the energies around you. You said there aren't very many people in your day-to-day life that are speaking the same human design language. But does it help you with your relationships as well? I mean, with your relationships to others, even if they don't have the same vocabulary, has has it helped you just navigate interpersonal relationships differently, or have you noticed any change?
Yeah, like it makes it easier for me to understand what's going on.
Mhm.
And it's, I just like I just like listening to what's like behind the words, and I just get lost in that. So, that's like the fun for me. Even if the person's talking about whatever, I just turn into, oh, I'm just watching that person now. What can I see here? What's going on? So it's nice if I can talk about human design system to someone, but sometimes I enjoy, just like watching a person talk and like knowing that they don't know anything about human design system or they don't want to know, but I'm just here again watching a play, of just one person in front of me. So yeah, but it's easier for me, like any relationship anywhere with anyone. It's easier for me to navigate because I'm more secure in myself.
Mhm.
And it's also like it just I was given this new layer of how to look at the person, like
Mhm.
I can study them from this angle or that angle or this angle, it's just, yeah, it just became funner
Yes.
to
Yeah.
communicate. Um and I mean, even just like the channel that I have that's like between Ajna and Thrall, like the genius to freak or whatever, something about you're supposed to know how to express yourself in whatever kind of way, right? I mean, when I was a kid, I basically was just afraid to speak. I didn't speak at all. I mean,
Mm.
my kindergarten teachers were worried about how I was going to do in school because I just didn't speak to anyone. So I see this channel, the first time I met Human Design System, I was like, what? I'm supposed to be good at speaking in some way? This is insane, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it just gave me the confidence to speak because it was like, I mean, it says here, I'm supposed to be okay with this or good at it or say something that's like freaky or genius or whatever, something in between. So it's okay. So that they gave me the permission to move attention from me and like observing my own nervousness in the conversation and am I going to say this right or wrong or whatever, to just being like, no, it's fine. Whatever I say, it's perfect because it's all in the red. It's like, it's almost none of it is conscious for me, right?
Right,
It's
right.
like I'm supposed to just observe it. I can't control it. It is just going to come out. So I can really just focus on what's going on here.
Mm.
So I for the first time kind of like gave other people a chance too, because before I was just like so consumed with myself that I just couldn't really form real connections, you know? So
Mm.
yeah, I mean it's a huge difference, you know?
Almost like watching yourself when you were working in the grocery,
Yeah.
like watching yourself like do the action. It becomes this awareness of the body for sure, that there is this other consciousness like moving through us that yeah, and just having that awareness that and the permission that comes with that. I love that. And is that your only channel to your throat, is the Genius to Freak?
No,
Or
I have the 5710 too.
okay, I'll have to go
So
look
the
at that.
perfecting form, whatever.
Okay, okay. I have the Genius to Freak also, so I was really resonating with that. I also was a very quiet kid too. Maybe because I was, you know, I was really self-conscious about my own voice for a long time. And I think that's part of another reason I wanted to do this podcast also, is sort of an exercise and practicing and providing a platform for others to use their unique voice. And I do want to talk a little bit about creativity too, because your website is so creative and you definitely have a great visual, like an eye. Do you have any sort of creative practice, or do you express yourself artistically at all, or do you have any sort of creative outlet that you enjoy?
Oh, I mean that also changes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, like right now, I just really like organizing my space. I mean, I always do, but that's just always something that I've always loved doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like 10 years ago, I studied architecture, so that was like maybe I'm like influenced by that as well. But I just like seeing this pace change constantly and seeing how like I can manage all these different colors and this little thing and that little thing and like organize things constantly and just just makes me feel like nicer being in a nicer space. And it doesn't have to be like new things or whatever. Just like I move this thing here and this thing there and just like colors just make sense. So
Mm-hmm.
I can get lost in that. And I've also been like cooking a lot more lately. So I just like I love putting the most boring ingredients together and just making something really beautiful looking
Love
and also
that.
tasty. So it's just like yeah, like this art creating something out of nothing, like that thing. But like when I was making a website, it all just kind of happened gradually. I was I was sitting down doing nothing, and I just like drew this one thing. I cut this thing out, and some kind of a logo was created. I was like, oh, I like these colors and these colors and these colors, and I just put them together. And I just like started cleaning things out and like organizing this there, and it just kind of happened. It doesn't go like it's not planned, but then it just kind of makes sense. But it just feels like it only makes sense to me, and that's really all that matters anyway to me. So
That's right.
I like these colors, and then when I don't, I change them, and then yeah, I don't like it's so difficult to just be like, oh, this is exactly how I do things because it's not like that.
Right. It's very fluid, it sounds like, and
Yeah.
it's and changing and evolving, like how you are expressing yourself
And it is
creatively.
based on like what I see outwardly too, you know?
Mm,
Oh,
mhm.
I see this person dressed a very interesting way, or this place is organized in a really nice way. I mean, I intentionally go and like go eat in a very fancy, nice looking restaurant just to eat in a very fancy, nice looking restaurant, or just like go eat like very fancy looking food because I want to watch the art on the plate and get inspired by that in every way, not just like, I mean, I'm not going to replicate the recipe, but just I'm going to create my room looking like that plate I was looking at,
Uh,
it's just I just like being surrounded by nice things, and it's not necessarily like expensive or whatever. I just like go into the forest. I'm like, wow, the combination of these colors here. So then I try to combine like nature with like art together, so it almost always kind of looks like I'm in a forest but with colors. That kind of mixture of things. I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm outside while I'm inside, and when I'm outside I also want to look like I'm inside, so it's like, yeah,
Love that. It
that makes
sounds
sense.
like, yes, and it sounds like you just live creatively. I mean, that is, creativity isn't a process that you do, it's just a way that you be. Uh, and that's beautiful. I love that. And it's very inspiring to hear you speak about you know, decorating your home like the food on your plate. And I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing um, all of these beautiful insights. I do want to make sure people know also how to find you. You have your main website that is uh, a work in progress, but it's still out there, like you said. Are you pointing people to your website now, or is it still sort of like? Are you just is it's available to be found? um, are
Yeah,
you?
it's available to be found. But it's yeah. I mean, it's it still feels like a very scary place to be at, like just actually doing only human design system. Um, it's like it feels very vulnerable. I don't think I've liked anything this much ever in my life, so it's like it matters so much, but then not at all at the same time. So I'm like, yeah, it's there. It's there to
Right.
look at. I mean, it's just an experience of what I've gathered in regard to human design systems so far, and I just kind of put it all there. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't want
Okay.
to like plan anything. It's just there. People
Uh,
can look at it, but that's it.
okay, that's good. I mean, I think that's a great place to be. I just want to make sure that people, if they are inspired to, connect with you, and to, especially gain some of your beautiful insights on their own chart, or because you are offering readings of charts, or I know you're diving into a new depth of study of the human design system now, so you're adding to your depth of knowledge, but you obviously have a lot of lived experience, and a lot of your own um, you lots of study already that you've done, and your own inner exploration, and you're offering readings and coaching, I'm guessing, of some sort. That's something else that is so interesting to me, is like this layering of information that we gain from just life, and you know the travel experiences that you had, and from studying architecture. I mean, I feel like, and then I think I read on your website that you also studied music, which is a whole other language, that I feel like we just layer all of these experiences, and that's part of, that's why I say human design system is, this mechanical, structural way of sort of framing things, but then all these other experiences that flow through, that we get to witness flowing through and around us, it just adds to, I think, the value that we can infuse into our interactions with others. And you have quite a fascinating merging of studies, and yeah, I love that mixture of interests that you've had. And the travel experience, was it as impactful as your experience of meeting human design? If you had to like categorize them, I'm guessing you got as much value of the experience itself of interacting with so many different types of people, and but it's such a diverse collection of experiences that you're bringing to into your work and infusing into, I call it work, but it's really just life of offering ourselves as, you know little beacons of light and creative expression, that are fueled by these experiences that we have. And I think yours are fascinating, and it's always interesting to to speak to someone else who speaks the language of human design, and that is I always really enjoy that. And I definitely have enjoyed talking about human design with you, and learning more about your adventures. And um, what else? I know it's a lot. Just expect to squeeze into 1 hour of conversation, but is there anything else that you would like to share, or um,
I mean, I encourage people to go find it and try it for themselves. It's, I love it. It's the best. But that's just my opinion.
mine too?
Um, I mean, I know we've talked about a lot how it like makes life easier and stuff. It's like, I mean, I also don't know what life would be like if I hadn't met human design systems. So do I really know? I'm not sure. Um, and I don't think life in general like became easier. Or like, I was given only the easy things to do. Nothing was difficult anymore. But it's just like kind of softened the fall, I guess, in a way. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel very privileged to have met this huge source of information. I don't know what I've done right or whatever to be able to meet this and have the capacity to understand it, at least to some degree. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess like if it's the right thing for people to notice and to see and to learn about, I'm just like I'm really yes, I'm the first one to say go for it.
I love that.
And you'll be just as cool as me and Aaron.
That's right, exactly. And at peace with the chaos around us on a not
Yes.
always. Oh, well, I really have enjoyed like just getting to know you a little bit better, and learning more about your perspective and your unique uh, differences, and just hearing you speak about life and the wild energies that we're immersed in, and that are flowing through our unique designs, and our unique expressions. And it's part of the reason this. It's been a while since my last interview, and I feel like it re-energizes me, especially when I can talk to somebody, um, with a vastly different perspective. Like literally, you're on the other side of the world, and so I enjoy that too. That that very unique. I appreciate your uniqueness for sure, and your unique voice. So thank you for sharing it here, and maybe we can do this again, later, and see how things have evolved and changed, and uh, where the constant fluid motion of life has taken you, then, and it's yeah. So yeah.
That too. Like, I mean, a human design system made it possible for me to communicate with someone on the other side of the world. I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
also English helps, but
Yes, and that is something else I had kind of wanted to speak to you about, the fact that you're learning human design now, like advanced learning, in English, which is not your native language, and it is. I can't even imagine comprehending and integrating that, but so much of it is sort of energetic, in a way. I feel like I sat with my chart just visually for so long. At the beginning I would just look at it and be like, oh, I don't know what any of this means, but wow. And I feel like I've sort of absorbed it energetically, so maybe some of that happens. I can't imagine uh, the process of comprehending in a language that wasn't my native language.
in a
So
way,
that
I see it as an advantage in some ways because I
mm,
wasn't like language almost like lost all meaning. It's like, yeah, I mean, it has to be energetic because I don't really understand the words. So,
right.
so.
What else is
So,
it?
yeah, so even like my first reading, I was like, yeah, I mean, I allowed myself to just not understand everything. I was like, really, how do I just like sit back and just like watch what I'm listening to, what I'm watching, how does it feel? Like it really like allowed me to only really observe energetics. And as I learned more English, that faded away. So,
Right, right, right. So, yeah, that's interesting. So, when you were just learning the language, you experienced it in a very different way, and then as you learned more,
like,
the
a child does. When you're
yeah,
born, you don't know the words, so you just watch things, you listen to things, you observe motions, like,
mm,
yeah.
that makes sense. Oh, wow, yes,
It's like you
and
are born again now with human design system or with whatever. So yeah, I felt like that too.
yeah, I'm guessing. Did you have that same experience as you were traveling and exposed to different languages as you were traveling? That you kind of were able to re-experience that again every time you were in a different space and
Yeah, yeah, that was
yeah.
fun. Like observing how like the same cycle happened over and over again, especially because I was like 1 month here, 1 month here, when I was doing
Right.
that. But also when I came like, now, or as soon as I came back to Europe and then Slovenia, and now that I've been here in a place where I grew up and I'm supposed to know how everything works and everything functions and how people are, and I'm just like, what? And it's so different now, but it's the same. Like
Right.
I look the same to everyone. Obviously, I'm older and stuff, but it's like it's a place what that's supposed to be familiar, and it is, but it also is not at all because I'm
Right.
different, and I'm looking at it differently. And even the language, even like my native tongue, I speak it differently and I understand it differently now because of the fact that I learned all these words and understood life through English and human design system, and now almost like translating what I've learned in English into Slovenian now and incorporating that in my vocabulary here as much as I can, as much as the language allows it to. So
Wow.
it's just like so much fun,
Wow.
like, so much going on. So
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. Wow, that is a lot. Like, but it's a lot of fun, I'm sure, especially because you have this, a way of reframing it and not taking it like as seriously maybe as you would have without this tool. It would have been like,
I could totally just it's awful. I have to relearn my own language. This is terrible. I don't know how to function because it is like that sometimes too. Like,
mm,
why did I
right.
go and travel and expose myself to all these kinds of different cultures and people and languages? Why wait? I could just stay here and be like safe,
Um,
you know?
oh,
I feel
wow.
that too all the time. Is that too? It's like, I mean, I talked about
Right.
it at the beginning too. Like, why do I have to do this? But it
Right.
just kind of happens, and I'm like, well, I guess it's happening.
Wow. So it just that is a whole other conversation right there is speaking stepping into the like willingly stepping into the unknown and leaning into the unknown and trusting yourself enough to know that it's going to be okay. It may be an adventure, but because I think that's what artists do. That's what creatives like. I'm, uh, you know, I reframe it from a creative perspective and like as an artist or a creator like you become familiar and comfortable in the discomfort of the unknown and you just will and it sounds like it was like a muscle that you worked out you practiced and you like exercise this muscle of uncertainty or and sort of just trusting the process of you, I guess.
And like no choice. It's like such a fancy saying, but it's also there you don't have a choice. It's what's going on. you know?
Uh, uh, well, it has been so amazing just chatting with you and viewing the world through your perspective. And so, thank you so much again for taking this time. And we'll definitely do it again sometime. And I'll definitely be staying connected with you and your work. And uh, yeah, excited to see what other new things you share of yourself and from yourself. So
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for organizing this event and many others in the future.
thank you so much again for your time and for connecting with me and sharing your story and all the beautiful insights you shared. Thank you, and we'll chat again soon, sometime. Thank you, Anja.
Yeah.
Bye.